Everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So here we are. We're talking about the division again, the franchise. And, I think it's quite pertinent that we have this conversation because right now, the whole summer game fest has begun. A lot of the publishers are, pulling out their best tricks. They're trying to appeal to their communities. They're trying to make sure that, everybody understands and knows that they are here to, appeal to and do right by all the gamers. And it's quite interesting just to see a lot of what's going on there. Now, here's the thing. The development teams and the publishers that have done right by their community forever, they have nothing to worry about. I mean, if they've made solid games in the past, if they've pretty much, appealed to their audiences and done everything their audiences want, they can be certain that their audiences are going to patronize them. The simple games that I'm talking about, games like Elden Ring, which is a game from Software. That's the name of the company, literally, From Software. That's a development team. I think they're getting a publication deal with Bandai Namco. That's usually how they've rolled. So that's one that everybody is certain about. Another one that I mentioned yesterday in my video, I was talking about the Division franchise needing pretty much doing something that appeals to their community. So I mentioned Battlefield 2024, and they're also seeming to appeal to their community. Now, before I continue any further into this video, I wanted to go ahead and preface or actually wrap something I mentioned in my other video in context. In my other video, I talked about what I felt Ubisoft could do that looked something similar that would appeal to their current community with the Division, and I said a level cap increase would make sense. Now, because we've been having these conversations about the next coming content after Warlords of New York, we've all kind of understood that a level cap increase would have to come with some kind of a DLC similar to Warlords of New York, even though officially it's not something that has been announced as part of the game mode that's going to be coming in the next few months or whatever it is. So I wanted to contextualize that. If Ubisoft's going to bring a level cap increase, I doubt that they're going to bring it out just raw. No one's going to play it to go farm, just like one of my audience members said, the same missions over and over again. If anything, a level cap increase will have to be accompanied by content that makes it, be sensible or worth people playing or worth people even evaluating. So let's kind of put that context in play. But again, I think what's going on right now is something that we really have to kind of filter out so that, it doesn't really get any of the contaminated practices that game developers can use. Now, for those of you who've been in the Division community, you've been here long enough. You can smell any kind of BS that, is thrown your way. So when I said in my last video that Ubisoft needs to figure out a way to make sure that the Division community receives something that is appealing to them, I got some concerns mentioned, and I feel that they're actually very valid concerns. One of the concerns was the fact that, because of the way everything has gone last year with all the medical issues, what's going to happen is a lot of these game development publishers or, whatever it is, will find themselves in one of two situations. Situation number one is that they actually double down on whatever they've been doing before. So be it they've been doing everything perfectly well, like I mentioned, or they go on to, do shady things like they've always done or never done before. So example will be EA and their Battlefield 2024, reveals. So I mentioned yesterday that these Battlefield 2024 reveals are really taking the internet by storm. In fact, they've also doubled down. Their Battlefield Twitter account has done fan art of this particular thing, or at least I would say pinned or taken the credit to start to show some of the community fan arts to something that's actually very symbolic in the Battlefield community. This is a fan art of a player who literally ejects out of a jet fighter, shoots another jet fighter with a grenade launcher, and then lands back into the jet fighter inside of a gameplay simulation. This is something that really was very popular in the Battlefield community, something I never really knew about. I've never seen it before, but you can see videos here of people actually showing, this is from the trailer up top here, and then you can see that, oh my goodness, this is the gameplay of a gamer actually doing this stuff. And it got really popular, and it's taken the internet by storm. So I think this was a viral ploy in order for them to be able to at least come up with something that worked for their audience and their community. I mean, it's very interesting nonetheless to see all of this in action. Now, I believe that this could as well be, and I'm not going to, dismiss this. I even mentioned that yesterday in my other video that I thought EA was kind of like, the little devil. I mean, I don't think you can really trust them too much. You got to really put some things in perspective when you think about a company like EA and their past practices. They're a very profit-driven company, and in many cases, they'll do as much as they feel is necessary to attain those profits. And so this is something that many people have said it's good to be, to advise, a lot of people, a lot of gamers that, hey, whatever may be going on, the hype that may be building, it's good to be very cautious. And that's for sure. I'll always recommend that you never buy any video game unless you want to buy that game and it's not going to be an issue for you to shell out the dollars for it, especially on release. Usually it's best to wait. It's best to kind of like, feel the area. It's best to kind of understand the landscape before you go ahead and start making any purchases. But then again, we have the Division franchise here right now. And I believe that there is something that, makes me go into the perspective of saying, what would Division agents do if they didn't have the Division to play? Now, this is a very valid question. I've been having some conversations with the audience members here, and, it's kind of really interesting to see how many people really do play the Division still, and how they still portray and how they still visualize the game. There are many aspects to different agents and the way we, all engage the game. Some of us, we play the game dedicatedly. Some of us, we play the game more casually, off and on, but at the end of the day, there's something to be said for how much the community has really continued to engage in this particular franchise. And I believe strongly that at the end of the day, when the development team, kind of say, we're no longer continuing this franchise, how is that going to really look? What is history going to look like for this game? Would it look upon this game favorably, or would it look upon the game as a game that really did suffer from a lot of its own corporate nightmares? Because again, if you want to even think about corporate nightmares that the Division fundamentally suffers from, you really have to go back to what the heck we're even getting in the next few months. If you analyze that, you're going to see that there is fundamentally a problem as to how they wanted to manage this game. So think about it. They first of all wanted to make sure that the whole season 6 or whatever manhunt with Fei Lao was the end of all content for Division 2. I mean, think about this. They wanted to just end everything like that and just kind of do an abrupt ending for a community that's been there all this while. Well, in the background, they were also working on a free-to-play battle royale game in the same franchise, and they never thought it necessary to mention that in the context. If you didn't tell anybody, everybody would have thought that you were trying to screw them over. So fundamentally, there's a communication, or I would say something in a chronological offset with this entire franchise. Since the release of the Division 2, it suffered a lot of this stuff. It's so weird because it would have made the news much more of a softer, blow than saying, we wanted to just, end the Division, but we've decided that we're going to bring more Division 2 content. And then down the road say, oh, by the way, we're working on a free-to-play battle royale game. It's kind of head scratchy if you were to ask me. So first of all, I think we're going to have to look back and say all of the communication and everything was just so skewed that if they would do anything again, they would have to learn that even though you want to keep things secret, you're better off just not saying anything, or when you come out, deliver a very clear message, be it inside of your game or outside of your game. And I think that's one thing that massive Ubisoft basically has had to eat the L for a lot. They never really emphasized or, they never really, put together a very clear messaging. And I think another reason for this is not necessarily that it's, dynamically somebody's fault. I mean, from the corporate level, yes. But again, I think, the way their structure is really quite interesting. There's so many layers to an Ubisoft game. I don't know if this is what makes them capable of punching out so many games at the same time, but because there's so many layers, it really seems like, within the company, those layers could be simplified. And when I say simplified, in terms of management and in terms of structure. So if you look at other big studios that are usually bringing out a lot of these games, maybe it's a battle royale game or maybe it's a free-to-play game. There's usually someone at the helm of everything that is, in the know and has a high enough pay grade to be able to make a lot of assertions. It's usually those people that they bring out whenever they have something that they want to say. I think breaking things down too much really kind of in a way shot them in the foot. Like when they bring a person to state of the game to come tell us about this one particular area, it was kind of nice to do those things, but if you go back and say in retrospect, I think that created a lot more confusion than anything else. It would have been nice if somebody who was in the know came out and was making all of these assertions. Because again, if you kind of listen to the chatter going on within, the underground cables, you're going to find out that, some people are saying that it appeared that Ubisoft wanted to take this game off the table. And from within, there was a little bit of, I would say resistance to that idea, because the devs understood and knew that they had something in play for their community. They understood that this community still, pretty much had some vested interest for this game. Also, you look at the corporate level, and this is from one of my audience members as well. It appeared that Rainbow Six Siege just started to take the highlight when it came to all the Tom Clancy games. Rainbow Six Siege had already brought in $2.5 billion, and it just seemed like they wanted to just continue to put all hands on deck or put all resources to get this game out. And with Massive having stamped those two Hollywood-based movie deals, just didn't seem like they wanted to, Ubisoft or whoever wanted to really pursue this particular direction. If you were to ask me, I could share some more things that I really do believe, but right now I'm not really, in a place where I can say those things until we get more data and more information. But I think that if you were to ask me that year 2 content or year 3 content release, I think that was kind of a rush job after that Ubisoft earning call meeting. So when you look back at history, I think the communication, the chronological setting of everything has really hurt this franchise so badly. And I think Ubisoft is looking at that from a PR perspective and wanting to just continue their Rainbow Six farm and continue to farm the dollars out of there. It's quite unfortunate that this is where we're seeing the division go right now. And I think it will probably become maybe a play project for, to have for at least a few years and tinker with. And then potentially in the next few years, they'll revive the franchise and see if they can appeal to that community of gamers, including people who came in on the tail end and people who are probably just new. I don't know if we're going to get the continuity that Assassin's Creed or Far Cry or the other Ubisoft titles are getting until at least a lot of this stuff has blown over. This really was a misnomer, if you were to ask me, as to how this development team decided to run their game. Now, could they have benefited from just shutting up their mouth and making things right? Maybe, but I think what happened was the googly eyes of the amount of sales that the Division 1 did. Back in the day when they used to, advertise games with beautiful CGI trailers, and everybody thought the Division 1 was going to be this awesome thing that they had never seen, and it only happened that was the case for some of us. Some of us, we stayed because it was the awesome thing that we had never seen. We never really understood how a game could be so unique, but ideally it sent a message to the gaming community that they could never really get a game that they were promised on the far end. Because some of you followed the Division franchise from 2013, its first announcement, all the way when it released in 2016. And many people in the 2013, crowd were expecting what they saw in the trailers and got something different. And so when you kind of think about all of that, it just did not land for this particular title the way that it could have. And that is a potential song that we all sing. Now, what are the possibilities? What are the mitigating factors? Is all hope lost? Nah, you guys know me. I'm an optimist. I'm also, in a sense, someone who wants to deal with reality because I don't want to be deluded. And that's the fact that we have Division Heartland right now. In fact, I think Division Heartland is the thread, because if you look at the way all of these things have gone down, I believe that a Division 3 could have easily sprung up if Warlords of New York did not go down south. It would have easily set the stage for a Division 3 game, no doubt. But now I think that Division 3 game, even though I strongly believe that they are working on the concept for that game, I don't know if we're going to see that game in even the next 3 years. I think it might be a 5-year stretch with ease. Now, here's the deal. Heartland is going to be the thread that continues this, particular I would say, franchise or knowledge about the Division game. The Tom Clancy universe will still exist. Thankfully, Rainbow Six Siege is doing the good job and making sure that that's a thing. You also have the Division mobile game as well. Now, that's probably not going to appeal to a lot of people, but it will still keep the noise kind of sounding. That Division, mobile game is like a noisemaker. It's just going to be humming in the corner. And then you're also going to have the Division movie. You're also going to have the Division book. Once all of these things pan out, I think they will set the stage for another full-fledged franchise release. Until then, it's just going to be the slim pickings for this particular franchise. Now, many of you understand and know that I am pretty much the biggest Division fan when it comes to content creators. But at the same time, when you kind of think about all of what's gone on and you look at the accumulating effect of all of this, it's just unfortunate. These things, in many cases, could have been controlled. Some things could have not been controlled and could also not have been mitigated for. But this doesn't mean that Ubisoft is abandoning the franchise. I don't want this video to mean, oh, Ubisoft's going to abandon this franchise. Don't be fooled. This is one of the franchises that brought Ubisoft over 10 million sales in terms of purchases. They're not going to just leave it alone. Even though they have these Hollywood-based movie games that are already stamped and sealed, I think those are going to be just deliveries pretty much. But when it comes to the money makers, the Division is part of that ecosystem. They just have enough of them where they can afford to at least bench the Division temporarily. After that, I think the Division franchise is pretty much going to come out strong. But until then, we're going to keep an eye to the ground. I don't think, and when I say in the next 5 years, I don't think we're going to go too long without starting to hear some hummings. There might be a leak, there might be something, and we'll probably be hearing about, in my opinion, this news that another Division title separate from Heartland is more than likely going to be worked on in the future. We'll see, though. Time usually tells. Thank you for engaging me. I appreciate you guys so much. Talk to you in the comment section. Let's chat. Leave a comment. I want to hear what you think overall. Peace out.